We've talked a lot about the great kings of the Maya, but today we're going to talk about one of their most powerful queens. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Lady Xoc, also known by her birth name, Yohl Ik'nal, is one of the most important figures of the classic Maya period. But like so many other ancient women, she's not very well known. While there are numerous sculptures and monuments dedicated to her husband, King Pacal the Great, and some scholars argue that they depict her ruling alongside him, only a few monuments show her by herself. But despite this, she has proven to be one of the most influential women in ancient Mesoamerica. In this episode, we're going to explore who she was, what we know about her life, and why she matters. Archaeologists believe that the headdress was designed to replicate the jaguar that pulls on Lady Xoc's rope in the carving. However, it may have also symbolized the tension between the physical and spiritual realms, since jaguars were associated with the underworld. By having a jaguar pull on her restraints, Lady Xoc showed her willingness to endure pain for the greater good of her people. And it was the willingness to sacrifice that was important in bloodletting ceremonies, not the actual shedding of blood. The jaguar on the left side grooms her dress with its paws, and the jaguar on the right side licks her face. They form an arch above the doorway and flank the queen just as the jaguars do. But these serpents aren't dangerous predators. Instead, they act as attendants to the queen and serve as a link between the human and supernatural realms. The Maya believed that the earth rested on the back of two large serpents, and these creatures were frequently used as symbols of power and authority. She used her status to shape the religious and political life of her city and helped to ensure the prosperity of her dynasty. They were called vision serpents because they could grant prophecies and visions to those who communed with them, and they were summoned through bloodletting rituals. After Pacal's death, Khan Balam came to power and continued his father's legacy. But the surrounding kingdoms were growing stronger, and soon they would challenge Palenque's dominance. The Aztecs also had a tradition of powerful women rulers, such as Isabella of Tenochtitlan. However, the Maya are better known for their female rulers because they left behind so much artwork depicting them. Unfortunately, much of this artwork is in museums or private collections, and it's rarely shown to the public. We hope to change that with our upcoming book on Maya archaeology. In 683, Palenque was defeated by a coalition of Maya states, and the city was sacked. This marked the end of Palenque's golden age. If you love art, architecture, mythology, or history, then you'll love learning about the Maya. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. He ruled over Palenque for 29 years and oversaw the construction of several impressive buildings, including the Cross Temple and the Sun Palace. When he died, his son, Cain, Joy, Chitam too, took the throne. He reigned for only 6 years, but he left behind a number of beautiful works of art, including the monument with the descent of the jaguar priest. Jaguars were considered sacred animals among the Maya and were frequently associated with royalty. They symbolized strength, courage, endurance, and nobility. As she pours the maize beer, blood flows out of the wounds and into the vessels in her hands. For one thing, she is one of the best documented Maya women ever. She is often shown performing bloodletting rituals or presiding over religious ceremonies. In addition, the fact that she appears on so many monuments shows that she was highly visible in public life. She wasn't confined to the domestic sphere and was seen throughout the kingdom. There are dozens of sculptures and monuments dedicated to her, which is surprising given that so little is known about the lives of ordinary Maya women. Elite women like Lady Xoc had more freedom than most. They could own property, participate in politics, and even rule as queens. However, they were still expected to fulfill the same religious duties as men. Bloodletting was a necessary part of life for all Maya royalty, regardless of gender. But it was the Maya women who had a special connection to the gods and were responsible for ensuring the prosperity of the kingdom. First of all, the sheer size and magnificence of the sculpture show how important she was to the city of Palenque. If she had been merely a figurehead, her monument would have been much smaller. The fact that she's shown presiding over a bloodletting ceremony tells us that she was closely involved with the religious life of the city. This makes sense given that the Maya believed that women had a special connection to the gods. Finally, the inclusion of her husband and sons on the monument shows that she was instrumental in the continuation of the royal line. Without her, the dynasty of Palenque would have ended with Pakal. This is a clear representation of the bloodletting ceremony that we see on Monument 10. When the blood reaches the end of the vessel, it spills out onto the ground before the jaguars and creates a pool for them to drink from. The blood represents the life force or the essence of the living, and was often mixed with the maize beer to make it potent. The fact that the jaguars and serpents drink the blood further emphasizes their connection to the queen. They consume her life force and become her servants. But their presence here likely has another meaning as well. Jaguars were also associated with the underworld, and in this scene, they represent the realm of the dead. This suggests that the queen's act of pouring maize beer is a ritual to appease the dead. Let's dive into Lady Xoc. During the classic Maya period, Maya kings frequently sent embassies to other kingdoms, and these missions were frequently headed up by a queen. And when rulers died, they were often succeeded by their wives. So, while we can't say whether or not Lady Xoc actually had any official power, her position as Pacal's wife made her the most important woman in Palenque. She married her cousin, Pacal the Great, when he took the throne around the year 615 A.D. Temple 23 was built after Pacal's death by their son, Canbalam, to honor his parents. The temple is decorated with carvings of ancestral rulers of the dynasty, but the main attraction is the lintel above the entrance to the temple. It's 7 meters wide and 2 meters high and depicts a number of important symbols of Palenque's royal heritage. This alliance between two powerful noble families legitimized Pacal's claim to the throne, and it worked. Her headdress is decorated with shell and feathers, and she wears earrings, a necklace, bracelets, and anklets. The queen is shown holding a clay vessel in her hands, and she uses it to pour a liquid into a bowl. Before her, the pouring of maize beer was a symbol of fertility and was frequently depicted in Maya art. But in this case, the action had a much deeper meaning. Together, they ruled over Palenque during its golden age from 615 to 683 AD. Lady Xoc was the daughter of two high-ranking nobles, although we don't know exactly who her parents were. But she was almost certainly related to the previous rulers of Palenque. These rituals were a sacred duty of the king, but the queen participated in them too. Monument 10 at Palenque shows Lady Xoc performing a ritual that involves piercing her tongue with a sharp instrument. The scene depicts her wearing the insignia of the ruling dynasty of Palenque and holding a bloodletting instrument in her right hand. In her left hand, she holds a rope that is tied around her feet and is being pulled taut by a jaguar, which sits on the ground before her. She looks down at the animal as she reaches back to hold a mirror up to her face. A Maya priest stands behind her and supports her while an attendant brings a bowl for collecting the blood that drips from her mouth. Like all Maya royalty, both she and Pacal performed bloodletting rituals to commune with the gods. The scene depicted on Monument 10 was probably inspired by a real event, because similar objects appear in a stucco headdress that was found at the site. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly what the occasion was for this bloodletting, but we do know that she presided over religious ceremonies in her own right. She used her status to commission at least 2 major monuments in her own right, including Temple 23, which features the famous Lintel 24. At the center of the lintel is Lady Xoc. She's seated on a low platform and wears the elaborate dress of a queen. On either side are 2 jaguars. They flank her and act as attendants. Behind the queen are 2 large entwined serpents. Their heads are raised and their fangs are bared. Here, the serpents emerge from a pair of sacrificial cuts on the queen's arms. So what does this tell us about Lady Xoc? Lady Xoc is a perfect example of a Maya elite woman. She was born into a family of high-ranking nobles and married into the most powerful dynasty in the Maya world. While we don't know much about Lady Xoc's life, we do know that she was the mother of two great kings, Ken Balam II and Cain Joy Chitam II. Both of these rulers were successful, but their reigns were marked by violence and war. So why does Lady Xoc matter? The imagery of Lady Xoc in art underscores this central role. It's important to remember that the Maya were not the only Mesoamerican culture with powerful women. One of the best things about the Maya is that there is something for everyone.